Now, if you have been looking forwards to the scheduled live event with Dr. Stephen Seiler, the most downloaded guest of the Physical Performance Show to date, that was to take place on the Gold Coast at Bond University on the 18th of July 2020, then obviously the event has needed to be postponed. For those who have purchased tickets, many of you, we will be in touch around the postponement of the event, and we are still looking to get Stephen down all the way from his home in Norway as travel restrictions relating to the current worldwide pandemic are lifted. But good news in the meantime. I posted recently to social around the interest in supporting a 2-hour webinar with Dr. Seiler on the same theme, sustainable training for attainable endurance goals. Remember, Dr. Seiler is the world authority, the father figure, if you like, around the polarized /80-20 training approach. And my request for interest was met overwhelmingly with support. So on the 18th of July, we will be bringing you the option for a ticketed attendance for a 2-hour live webinar with Dr. Stephen Seiler, with further details for event registration to follow. So thanks for your support of the live event. We really are excited to bring you the webinar while we wait for travel restrictions to be lifted and the live in-person event to be rescheduled.
Hey, this is Michael Wardian. I'm a ultra-marathon runner from Washington, D.C., looking to run on the moon or Mars at some point, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Could you imagine running 262.5 miles or 422 kilometers across 63 hours with no sleep? Well, wait, that is what today's featured performer, US ultra and marathon acclaimed distance runner Mike Wardian did. But there's more. Mike did this around the block whilst under quarantine, and Mike termed it the hashtag quarantine backyard ultra. Now, we didn't discuss the quarantine backyard ultra on today's featured performer episode, but we did discuss many of Mike's other records. For example, Mike has been the fastest marathoner ever dressed as Spiderman and Elvis. Mike has also held the fastest 50-kilometer treadmill world record set in 2015 at 2 hours and 59 minutes. Mike holds the World Abbott Marathon Majors record for the fastest average time across all 6 World Marathon Majors: Tokyo, Boston, London, Berlin, Chicago, and New York, with an average time of 2:31.09. And more recently, Mike picked up the bronze medal at the USA Track and Field 50-kilometer National Road Championships, crossing the line in 3:06.10, which was a US 45 to 49-year-old Masters record. Probably getting a sense for Mike Wardian, he is prolific. In fact, I do not know of any other elite runner who races as much as Mike, more than 50 times a year. Last year, Mike covered 2,591 kilometres in competition alone. Mike's sporting resume is something to behold, and on today's episode, Mike shares around the highs, lows, and learnings of his incredible career to date. We play the game of threes, with Mike outlining his top 3 tips for Masters runners, top 3 trail running tips, top 3 recovery tips, and top 3 marathon tips. Of course, there's the physical performance round and the physical challenge of the week. Strap in and enjoy this week's featured performer episode, Mike Wardian. This has been a big year for you to date, but I don't think any year you ever have is a small year in terms of running and competition. So we are thrilled to welcome you to the Physical Performance Show and basically get inside your head around how it is possible to function at such a high level over so many events across a year. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, man. It's a pleasure to be here. We had a couple days of trying to get together, so it's nice that we finally made it happen.
I think it was 3 consecutive slots. One, a technical problem at my end. 2, a must-do training session at your end. And here we are, 3 nights in a row. We're both committed, right?
Yeah, man. That's what it's all about, man. You just keep showing up. Keep showing up.
Keep showing up. So, Mike, please expand. How has that stood you in good stead over your running career to date?
Oh, man. Well, actually, I think that's a Desi Linden quote that she used when she won Boston, but I think it's really impactful. I mean, I think a lot of times, like, it's, you can't control a lot of the things about the race or the competition, but if you keep showing up, eventually things will go your way, and maybe you have that special day. And I've definitely, as you said, I like to be out there a lot and competing, and so like I think last year I ran over like 1,700 or 1,800 miles and 54 or 55 events. So and this year I had a bunch of stuff planned. Everything's been kind of rearranged. So I'm keeping myself busy with like solo adventures or like very minimally supported fastest known times and stuff. So I think I'm already at like, I don't know, 15 or 20, kind of adventures and races so far. So, I mean, even if the rest of the year gets canceled, it's been a pretty good year. But it's one of those things where I keep setting challenges. So every time I achieve something or have the ability to get out there, I want to kind of get something out of that, and that's kind of been my guiding light or principle in everything that I've done since I was a little kid, and I've just kind of followed it through adulthood and into my running career.
Well, you just said there, Mike, getting something out of it. It's always been your guiding light. Where does that come from? Is that something that was instilled to you as a child, or just your DNA?
No, I think that's something that I've always tried to take from things, is like, no matter what happens, like, you can always find something from it. Like even, from a DNF or a race that didn't live up to your expectations, or you didn't perform the way that you thought you should. There's something, there's like a grain in there, and there's something that you can harvest and use for future events and future adventures. And that's something that, I learned along the way, is there's only going to be one winner in every race. Like, and, depending on how many people there are, and there's some races where you're just not going to win. Like, I'm never going to win the Boston Marathon. Like, I'm just not going to happen. But, you set your own goals, and then you go to try to achieve those goals. And I think most of us out there, we're not going to be the first guy across the line. I've been lucky enough to be the first guy or first person across the line a couple of times, but like, you have to kind of make it about like, what do you want to get out of this? Like, what is like, do you want to, I don't know, be the first person, from your area, the first person in your age group? Do you want to see the sunrise coming up on the second day of a run? Like, do you want to really know what it's like to move for, 6 days in a row? Like, there's all different kinds of ways that you can challenge yourself. And I think, especially in this time that we're living in now, I think it's all about getting creative with what we're doing, and, kind of finding your own, I'm searching for a term, but your own kind of validation that's not external. It's internal. It's something that, you've decided ahead of time. And usually a lot of times I'll set multiple goals. So, it might be win the race. And then when that one's gone, it's be the first dude with a beard. And then when that one's gone, it's like, be the first guy from the U.S. And then when that one's gone, it's, be the first guy that has 2 kids, or, and so you can kind of like, back it down, because if your goal is only to win or to set the course record or, to, I don't know, smash the race and you're getting your butt kicked, like, it's really easy to, kind of step away from it. But when you have multiple things that you're trying to achieve, it keeps you in the game and it keeps you motivated.
Oh, geez, Mike, that's terrific. So much there. It makes me think of a prior featured performer on the show, Meb Klavetsky, who shared
Meb's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of your, countrymen there, and he shared something very similar, Mike, and that is that you got to have a few goals going into a race, because goal one's likely going to fall over, win the race. Goal two might be, and then you go down the list, and then you focus on number 5 or 6. So there's some acquired wisdom there from yourself, Mike and Meb. Mike, one of your the novel accolades that your running resume boasts. I mean, there's so much in here, and each of them is a significant talking point. But you said be the first guy with a beard, but what you didn't say is be the fastest marathoner ever dressed up as Spiderman or Elvis.
Yeah. I mean that, and I think that that's also something that I've tried to do over the course of my running and in life, is to try to make these adventures and challenges fun. And so I've set Guinness World Records as Spider-Man, and somebody has since broke it, which is part of that's why records are made. And that's what I think is awesome is, I think someone's run 2:17 now as Spider-Man. I mean, that's just insane. And actually that's just awesome. Just to see people, I think I ran 2:34 for a marathon, 42 Ks, and someone came along and smashed it. And and also the Elvis world record, this guy Nicky from Germany broke my record by about a minute, and I tried to get it back, and I totally didn't have the day that I wanted and missed it by 50 seconds. And so it was just it's just awesome to kind of put those things out there. Yeah,
and I think that's those that follow you, and perhaps this will open your career to a few listeners of the show. And but the thing that really stands out about yourself to me, Mike, as I researched in preparing for this, was that you've had great longevity, but you seemingly have never lost the joy. And I think that's really really inspiring. And to see you performing so well, as a masters runner, plus 40 runner, I think it really speaks to the fact that our best can still be out there, but we've got to find ways of pulling that out of ourselves. And our best doesn't always necessarily mean year on quicker times, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's something that it's weird because I'm 45, about to be 46 coming up here, and I still feel like I'm having some of my best runs. My times aren't the same. I don't think last year I didn't even break 2:30 for the marathon, which was surprising to me. Usually, a couple of years ago I could break 2:30 every weekend, and I think I got 2:31 last year, but I wasn't really focused on that either. I was focused more on multi-day runs, and I ran across Israel and I set the world record for 10 marathons in 10 days. And, I've kind of shifted and evolved as an athlete. And I think all of us do that in our lives. We're not the same people we were when we were, 15 and 20 and 25. And I think that that's natural, and we have to keep the desire and it just kind of, instead of always chasing time, I've started chasing more adventures and more journey runs and more kind of these things where I'm challenging myself in a different way. And I think that all of us can find something out there that does that, and it may not even be in the same sport. I'm, committed right now to running, but I have interest in, snowshoeing, rowing across oceans, running on the moon and Mars. And there's so many things out there that people can find adventure and people end up getting burnt out because they just feel like they're doing the same thing and they're not able to achieve. But I think if you can kind of shift your mindset to being open to other things and be creative with what you're doing, there's always things that get me fired up. And I think you have to be fired up to do these things, because it's not easy every day to find, an hour or 4 hours, depending on how much you're, training to put the time and effort in. If you're just well, I'm never going to be as fast as I was when I was 20. I mean, it's just hard. I mean, no one wants to roll the the rock up the mountain only to have it fall back on you every single day. So like, yeah, I think that's natural. I mean, it's evolution is part of what, we are as humans and as people, and it happens, and you just got to find different ways to challenge yourself.
Mike, Masters runners are so inspiring, as we spoke through, and you are one of the guys leading the charge. I mean, one of your incredible accolades that I think is just so significant is the fastest ever all-time average across the Abbott World Major Marathons. Obviously, that's including Tokyo, Boston, London, Berlin, Chicago, and New York. You averaged, Mike, 2:31.09. So
yeah.
that's quite something. One, to get into the events, and two, to run those times.
Oh man, yeah. I think the harder part was getting into the events and getting traveling to all the different parts of the world in the same year, and then on top of that, doing all the other events that I normally do. So like Marine Corps, and so like actually, it's funny this year. I don't know if you noticed, because of everything that's going on, like they've all been postponed, and they're almost like back to back to back to back, except for Tokyo. So like everyone's like, oh, you should totally do that again. And I'm like, oh, that seems like it would be pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, I think that was actually one of my favorite kind of challenges that I kind of created for myself. And there are definitely other people that have done it all in the same year and gotten the 6-star finisher medal. And so it was nice to be, able to kind of, get those times based on doing that kind of work.
Mike, one of the other standout accolades on your resume is the fastest 50-kilometre time for a treadmill run, if it still stands. So that was 2015. What was that 50K time?
I think I ran like 2:59 or 2:59.54 or something. It was just under 3 hours. And actually, no, dude, in the last like month, it's been broken twice. So a guy named Mario Mendoza broke it, and then a guy from Germany just broke it like a week ago, Florian. So like, it's cool. Like when you set these things and you're like, oh man, I can't believe someone's done that. And then, two guys do it, within like a month of each other. Like, it's awesome. Like, I think that's cool to kind of put those things out there. And what's a funny story is the first time I thought I said it was on a Spartan cruise ship. So I was, part of Spartan race, and, I got my butt kicked at the Spartan race, and I was like, oh, what's this cool trick I can do? And so like I ran on the treadmill later that night, and I thought I set the world record in like 3:06 or something. Yeah, 3:06. And then like I tweeted it out to the universe, and like somebody in London was like, actually, that's awesome time, but my buddy ran like 50 seconds faster or something. And I was like, crap. Well, and then the next day I just did it again and ran like 3:03 and broke his record. So like I ran like 100K in like 24 hours, like 2 separate times. So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the cool things is like we can come up with these, these type of
challenges,
physical, challenges for ourselves, and execute on them or not. And like, at least you put it out there and you kind of have a goal. And, a lot of times it doesn't work out, but like sometimes it does. And when it does, it's awesome. And then hopefully it inspires somebody else to get out there and try to do something better or do something a little different.
You'd have to think with, as we record, the world's navigating, the coronavirus, and there's lots of isolation and quarantine and lockdowns, and you'd have to think that treadmill records might really get a nudge along after this period, right?
I think treadmill records for sure. Like if you have, I think the trick is like you got to have one in your house, or because if you're trying to go to a gym or a facility, like that's a little tricky unless you like, know somebody that has one. But I'm hoping like, people can still like, try to get in vertical, or like, run your stairs for like an hour and a half in your building, or like, still kind of, set these things up for themselves and still stay active during this time. And I hope a lot of people actually spend some time like trying to, everyone, I think if you're a runner, you're always kind of, especially if you're pushing, like you're always kind of on the edge. And so this could be a time where you kind of address some instabilities or like things with your form, or the opportunity to kind of get stronger in some areas. Like I think there's a lot of stuff we can still do that, and use this time to do that. And then I think it's going to be amazing when we are able to kind of come back and come together, and everyone's going to have a much, I know I do, appreciation for just the amount of community that we can embrace, and hopefully we can stay together as a community. I mean, I think it would be so much different if we didn't have the ability to connect with each other. I mean, like, we're still connecting right now. It's just not in person, but like the ability to kind of stay in touch and use social media, and, you know, there's social distancing, but I think we can use social media to kind of bring us together.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I actually got glory chills while you were saying that, Mike, just about the running spirit. You know, it's anyone that's ever stood amongst a crowd of any kind at a running event. You know, it's there's a real collectiveness in purpose there, and I think you're right. Once the go button does get turned back on, whenever that may be, then I think there will be a real appreciation for the simple things in life. You know, and running is one of those things, isn't it? The joy of just putting one foot in front of the other.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that, like, for me, that's like the ability to move kinetically through the world and kind of explore it. Like, and I think, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be running for people. Like, it's just moving in general. Like, you can get out and hike and walk and explore that way. But I mean, yeah, I get goose pimples too, like thinking about like the start line at like a big marathon. Like, when you're all there, you have that nervous energy and you're looking over at the guy next to you, but you're kind of all together, like trying to make each other better. And I think that's amazing. And hopefully we can kind of keep that spirit going and that community during this time. And, you know, we are going to, you know, probably have some challenges coming ahead, but I don't know how exciting it's going to be. It's like, I don't know if you were a part of it, but when the Boston Marathon had the bombing a couple of years ago, and then the next year they had the race, and like everybody was competing against everyone else, but it was more against what had happened, and like the level and intensity of that run, like it just carried you. And I think that, you know, we can use that collective spirit to do more than we could by ourselves. And so, like, hopefully during this time by ourselves, we can keep our fitness and keep our desire. And when we come back together, kind of harness it all and just have some incredible times and experiences as a running community and as an endurance.
Yeah, wow, powerful. Keep fitness, keep the desire, and come back and harness it. Mike, I want to talk about strength and conditioning. You're regularly posting up some of your work, your routines. Obviously there's work that you're doing to keep yourself able to output at such a high regularity, 54 times, 2,591 kilometres of racing in a 52-week window in kilometres to kilometre terms. So what does a sort of strength and conditioning week look like for you? Are you doing a couple of gym sessions or home-based? I see a lot of home-based stuff that you put up, which is always really interesting to look at, particularly through a physiotherapist's eyes.
Well, I should say, doing like 2 gym sessions a week with, and the guy behind it is a guy named Jesse Fuller. So he's involved in planning all that kind of stuff for me. But the 2 gym sessions are with him, and then I have like homework that I do throughout the course of the week, and that's kind of building on what we've done in the gym session. And then if there's some particular issue, like I said before, like most athletes, you kind of have a niggle somewhere, or especially as you get older, there's more opportunity for like you have a little hamstring thing, or like I've had a little Achilles thing going on where I'm trying to address some of that stuff throughout the course of the week. And most of the stuff isn't that hard. Like, I think the biggest thing for me when I started doing this maybe 4 or 5 years ago was like, oh man, I'm a runner. I just want to run. I don't want to make time for the strength and conditioning. But I think what I've learned over the course of the last couple of years is like the strength and conditioning allows me to run at a higher level and a stronger and longer without as much expenditure. And so like, it's worth it to put in the, 10 or 15, 20 minutes every day. And that's all you're like, if you want to just get some strength and conditioning, if you can just do something for, 10 to 15 minutes, like you get a big bang for your buck with that. And that's what it got me into running in the first place, was like, how do I get the most exercise in the shortest amount of time so that I can go out and party with my friends? And then, and then I was like, wow, like the strength and conditioning is like, how can I get the most benefit to allow me to run as far and as much as I want and stay injury free? And so like doing those kind of things, I think makes a big difference. And, I'm getting even more and more into it. Like I haven't like shifted like Ryan Hall and like try to pick up trucks. But like I can totally see the desire there to be like, man, someday I want to just see how strong I can get, if I can be like world's strongest man. Like I'm pretty sure I'm, never going to be that at like 63 kilos, but like Ryan was even thinner than me. And now he's like picking up,
yeah,
5 people at a single time.
I mean, it's been fun, hasn't it, watching Ryan's transformation and his application of his intensity into something different, and just what he's been able to achieve in that other space. But, you may be the world's strongest man after you've run on the moon and Mars, wasn't it there, Mike? So never say never. Your resume is unlike anyone else's already as it is. You're listening to Mike Wardian on this featured performer episode, sharing around his many highs, lows, and learnings from his incredible distance running career to date. Support for today's show comes from Pogo Physio's online consultations. If you are an endurance athlete, runner, or triathlete who has been suffering from a running-related injury, then rest assured, help is available through our very popular online consultations. These can be conducted anywhere in the world from the comfort of your own home via our exercise prescription software and the digital interface of your choice. As a sports and exercise physiotherapist, having had more than 25 years experience in the endurance sporting world, I stand ready to help. To find out more about Pogo Physio's online consultations, jump over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured performer, Mike Wardian, sharing around highs, lows, and learn-ins, and in particular, how to keep running very well into the master's years. Mike, I want to play a game of top threes. You have so much to share, and I don't want to lose this opportunity to extract some of your teachings. So here we go. We're going to play a game of top threes. Now, the first top three is Mike Wardian's top 3 tips for masters runners. Now, to give a definition, that's 40 plus years of age. What are Mike Wardian's top 3 masters runners tips?
My top 3 masters runners tips are find something that fires you up and gets you motivated. If you're a masters runner, most likely you have family or significant others. Try to get them on board with your goals, because that's something that you need to completely do, because you have so many obligations with work and family. So I try to do what's called invisible training. So I try to train with the most minimal impact as possible to everyone else and every other obligation. So try to find creative and interesting ways to get the amount of work in that you need to do with the most minimal impact as possible to the obligations and family commitments that you have. And the third thing is, and it's something we just touched on, but find a strength and conditioning program that's something that you're willing to do and is effective and isn't very time consuming. So be very efficient with your time, because it's precious.
Oh, that's rich. That invisible training concept, Mike, I really like that. And I think many people probably subconsciously, without thinking, go about it that way. I know I certainly do. How can I ensure I'm home to meet my 6-year-old daughter getting out of bed? That's a successful
right.
run.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to miss that moment, But are there any practical examples you've got of this, which I love, invisible training concept?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what I decided was before, when I was working at an office, I was like, well, I have to, if I don't drive to the office and I run to the office, well, I can get in one of my runs there. And then if I run again at lunch, I can get another workout in or do some strength and conditioning at lunch. And then if I run home, well, then I just got all my training in, and it's no extra time away from the family. And so now I work from home. So I do like a fake commute where I just go for a run around the neighborhood, but I wait until after the kids go to school, which they don't go to school anymore. So it doesn't work. But like when they were going to school, I would like help get them out the door and get ready. And if I wasn't, I would run or work out before that. So I get back to be able to be a part of that. So like, I still want to honor the obligations that I have, but like be creative with ways to use what you have to do anyhow. So like I'll run and pick up like dry cleaning or something, or like run to the grocery store, or like, we'll drop the car off for service and then, I'll run and go pick it up rather than drive there. Or, like if I have a doctor's appointment, I'll just run there or something. So like there are ways where you can, harness what you have to do anyhow and just use it as part of your training. And like, that's not saying like every session's awesome, but like, some of them are much better than others, but like, you can definitely, incorporate it into what you're doing. And like, I know, and sometimes there's like some logistics, when I was working in an office and had to put a suit on, like you got to find somewhere to shower or like wipe down or whatever. But like, I think that's a pretty small inconvenience for being able to, stay on top of your training.
Yeah. And there's a real sense of achievement, isn't there? Where you've kind of been able to make the most of a fairly full schedule, but still get stuff done. I think it's maybe runners by nature quite task oriented, I think. So it's probably a bit of that flowing out as well.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like to make those little lists of things that you need to do. And as when you tick them off, even if they're like minimal, it seems awesome. So like, This is just another extension of that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Mike, we're still in this game of top threes. Mike Wardian's top 3 marathon tips.
Top 3 marathon tips.
For pursuing a PB. For the runner out there looking to run their best marathon.
Okay. For the runner looking to run their best marathon and get a PB, my top 3 tips are figure out your fueling. Like you really need to know how you're going to fuel and when you're going to fuel. For example, I've dialed that in over the course of like 300 marathons for me.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I know what works, and it works pretty well. I work with Goo Energy, but like I do a gel every 4 miles. So it's kind of a lot of gels if you think about it. It's like 6 gels over the course of a marathon. And then I just drink to thirst at the aid stations. And even though I get elite bottles at most of the races, I never go for the elite bottle. So even if you're an elite runner, I'd say get used to just picking up from the regular tables, because every time I've tried to get an elite bottle, like I haven't ended up getting it, or it's like 5 back from where I thought it was, or it looks like everyone else's bottle. So like be really, really self-sufficient, but use what's on the course. So that's tip 1.
Yep. Figure out your fueling. 2.
Yeah. 2, the pace that you start at, you should be able to hold the whole time. Don't get caught up in what everyone else is doing. And it's such crap because I always do it. Even if you've done like 300 marathons, it's super exciting. The first 10K, everybody thinks they're like rock stars and everyone's cheering and you feel great and it feels slow. You've been saving yourself for this race and you've probably been tapering for a week. And like, just remember that it doesn't get hard until it gets hard, and then it gets really hard, and you have to be ready for that. And it's not going to feel like it did when you started 3K into the race. So be prepared for it to get hard and be ready for it, and know that you can hold the pace. And so you can work on that in your runs and your training leading up to the race where you have like a fast finish, but definitely be prepared for it to get hard and to know it's going to get hard, and to lock down and really own the pace. And so like know what pace you can hold. And so I think a lot of people like look at their watch and their, Garmin or Polar or like tells you like, oh, you should be able to run, 2:30 or 4 hours or whatever it is based on your 5K time. That might be true, but I'll tell you, when you get to 30K, if you've never run that far, it's going to feel really, really hard to hold that same pace. So I even recommend, and a lot of people will say like, oh, don't run more than like 35K in training or whatever. But like, I actually recommend, like, if you get the opportunity and the people I'll train, like sometimes I'll have them run the marathon beforehand so that you're not worried about like what it's going to feel like. You'll actually know like, oh, that's not exactly what I thought it was. And I think it makes a big benefit to know that you can do it just mentally. Like, then you're like, oh, I've already done that. It's not a big deal. And so like, yeah, I think that'll help you, get to the next level.
Yeah, and so is that the complete second one? Is there a third one?
Yeah. Sorry, that's the second one.
That's so powerful. Own the pace, Mike Wardian.
And then the third one, and the reason I do this is because I've messed this up before, and I could keep going. I can have way more than 3, but the third one I think is one of the most important, is lay all your stuff out the night before. So like, everyone posts the pictures of their like, running kit with their shoes and their compression sleeves and their socks and their gels but do that the night before so that at 4:45 in the morning when you're trying to get to the start line, you're not like, where's your shoes? Or you don't show up at the start without your shoes because you thought they were in the car, which I've done before and had to borrow shoes from a friend. And then he was like, hey, I need to split half your prize money. And I was like, no, dude, come on. But like, or show up without socks or like, without your lube. So like definitely lay out all your stuff ahead of time so that you're not scrambling around in the morning trying to find out, where your arm sleeves are. So yeah, do that.
That's brilliant. And it makes me think of Mike, the current featured performer on the show, Brett Robinson, who just broke the Australian half marathon record in Maragami, 59:57. But he was in the 2016 Rio Olympic Games final, 10,000 meters, and he forgot his race bib number. He thought that he'd get a new one given to him. And so the Olympic final, Mo Farah's sitting there waiting. They're all waiting there. Is held up for 15 minutes whilst officials try and organise Brett a new race bib because he left his in the apartment. I mean, that's hard to top, right? But lay it all out in advance. That's practical, but important come race morning or day. Mike, you're nearly out of this game called the top threes. One more top 3, trail running. Top 3 trail running tips. It's something that you've got a lot of experience and success in.
Yeah, top 3 trail running tips are, 1, make sure that you have a hydration system that you like and you know how to use. So most people overseas use a hydration vest with soft bottles, which is great. In the U.S., some people still use handheld bottles, but make sure you have a way to get water and carry water and be comfortable using it, and know how to like open the bottles and everything. Because I've definitely, when I first started, I didn't really know where to put stuff and how to, carry it on my body and like where it was going to like have hot spots. So like make sure that you know how to use your hydration system, know how to wear it, know how to fit it, make sure it does fit. So these are all just one thing. Like make sure you have a way to carry water and food and that it works. 2, suggestion is do some research on the terrain. So is it going to be a climbing race? Is it pretty easy trails? Is it technical? Are there any stream crossings? Are you able to have drop bags? So do a little research on like what you're up against, and then know how you're going to address some of the issues. Like, is it a really hot race? Is it cold? Are you going to need a jacket? Like, does it have mandatory equipment? Like, how are you going to carry all that stuff? So like, do your research on what you're facing. And the third thing is your pace in a trail run has nothing to do with what your pace is on a regular road race. So like, it's going to feel really, really slow and it's going to look slow on your watch, but it doesn't mean that it is slow. So like, you may run like 5 minutes per K on the road and it could be 8 minutes per K on the trails. And that's just fine. So like, cause you may be going uphill or you may like have a million rocks that you have to avoid, or you may be on the side of a cliff, and if you misstep, you're going to fall to your death. So like, just know that the pace doesn't have to be super fast all the time. And then Also, and I guess this is tip 3.5, is like good time to eat is when you're going uphill before it gets too steep. So like, and sometimes it's okay to walk. So like, and you don't call it walking and trail running. Everyone calls it hiking, but basically you're walking, and it's okay. And it's a good time to refuel and get your stuff together before. And so if you can do those kind of things, you'll have great success, and make sure you enjoy it, man. It's so awesome.
Wow, that's powerful. Mike, well done. You've survived the game of threes, and we're throwing straight into another game here, Mike. You ready for the physical performance round? Rapid fire questions, Mike Wardian. 1.
Yes, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Here we go. Training session most disliked.
Training session most disliked, the one that I missed.
Training session most loved.
6 by 1 mile.
What recovery?
As fast as you can. Less than 60 seconds.
Oof. Favorite pre-race meal?
Oatmeal, honey, and almond butter.
Bedtime, morning time, what do they look like normally?
Bedtime, 10 o'clock. Morning time, 4:45 to 5:30.
Who's the athlete you most admire and why?
The athlete I most admire currently is Magnus Carlsen, because he's just an incredible chess player and seems like a badass dude.
Good, valid reasons, Mike. Toughest competitor you've ever raced? Who and why?
Oh, my gosh. Toughest competitor I've ever raced. Marco Omo. He's an Italian dude at Marathon des Sables, and he was like 20 years older than me and still was like kicking ass. Like, he is such a badass. He has like these massive calves that are just like cut out of granite. And I swear, I thought I should have destroyed him. I was like, 20 or something, and he was like 45, and he was just a badass. Yeah.
Marco, if you're out there, is there a mantra you use when you're racing, and what is it?
The mantra that I use when I'm racing is, there's a couple, but stay after it, and why not today? And be relentless.
Wow. Stay after it. Why not today? And be relentless. Powerful. Mike, best recovery tip?
Keep moving.
Worst injury?
5 stress fractures and 5 hernias simultaneously in 2012.
And just to bullet point those, stress fractures of what?
5 stress fractures of my pelvis.
At different times?
No, simultaneously.
Sorry, you did say that. Wow. You really are into setting records, aren't you? One word to describe your racing style, Mike?
I'd say aggressive.
Mike, how would you describe being in the zone?
Fleeting.
When was the last time you were in the zone?
Oh, my gosh. Sunday. I just set a FKT around Washington, D.C., running all 50 states. And, man, I got into the zone, but it took until, like, 95K, which sucked because meant there was, like, 80K of, like, not being in the zone. But, yeah, man, I totally got there. It was awesome. It's funny. The longer you go, it's kind of like anything. It takes a little longer for you to find that kind of zone sometimes.
And would you agree you cannot pick the days when you're going to have it and the days when you're not?
Oh, my gosh, if you could, yeah, it'd be awesome. I'd be teaching everyone that. I'd be like a multi-gazillionaire. Yeah, I know. It just kind of, it's sometimes, it's hard to get that flow state. But when you do get it, man, it feels amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. Mike, final question in the performance round. What's the hardest session you've ever done?
It was actually not that long ago, and I don't know if it was just that I didn't have the fitness or the guys were just badass, but I did a session with the Northern Arizona Elite Hoka One team at the Hoka conference we had, like the global summit for the athletes, and it was 20 by 1 minute with a 1 minute recovery around a grass field in Scottsdale, Phoenix area, so a little bit of altitude for me, and they were dropping like sub 3 minutes per K. Like it was like, I think they were running like between 4:28 and 4:30 per mile pace, and I was like getting destroyed at like 4:45 or 4:50 per mile pace. So like, I made it like 4 or 5 minutes, and then I was off the back. Like, and I never got into recovery because that whole minute that they were recovering, I was just tempoing. So I think I actually set some of the records on the trail just because I never slowed down.
And they were starting stopping. Mike, you can chalk that up as an early morning training session your time there in Washington. Well done.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
If you missed last week's episode, it was a featured performer episode with another US distance running star. This time it was Jake Riley. Jake Riley qualified for the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games in fine form, at 32 years of age, staring down the brink of giving the sport away. If you missed last week's episode, here's a snippet of what you missed.
I know I'm in the zone when, I've gone through, whatever the interval is and I haven't looked at my watch. So you're not thinking about pace. You're not thinking about time. You're not thinking about how you're feeling. It's just, you're sort of just flowing freely. Like you've kind of reached this place where all the sort of metrics that you have in training, when you forget the clock and forget your body and you're just racing.
To tune into the full episode, jump over to wherever it is that you enjoy your podcast from, and whilst there, peruse the archives dating right back to episode 1 featuring Ironman Surf Lifesaving Champion Ali Day. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured performer, distance running star and guru, Mike Wardian. Mike, your sharings are so rich and so many, but this is going to really challenge you, I suspect. If you had to boil everything you've learnt through your running career to date, which has been so extensive and continues to be so, into one piece of advice to help listeners of this show perform at their own physical best, what's Mike Wardian's one piece of advice going to be?
Continue to evolve.
Continue to evolve.
Yeah.
In terms of just stay at it and keep looking for new challenges, as you've already shared?
Yeah. Keep the desire, keep the fire, keep the motivation, keep coming up with things that are unique and interesting, because that's what I know for me keeps me going and keeps me wanting to do the work necessary to get there.
Earlier you shared a mantra around be relentless. What does that mean to you? Be relentless.
Be relentless to me means don't let circumstance, decisions, good or poor, get in the way of what you're trying to achieve. So there's so many things that come up over the course of a day or a course of your life that are going to be things that are in the path of what you want to do. And you may need to address them, and that's fine, but don't lose sight of what you want to do and continue to stay focused. So be dogged, be driven, be committed to achieving what you're trying to set out to do.
Dogged, driven and committed. Mike, must ask, where do your running genes come from?
I think actually both my parents were pretty athletic. I'd say my mom, Vivian Wardian, was even more athletic than my father, Richard Wardian, but both of them are still active in their 70s and they're, well, right now they're hunkered down, like in the barracks, but like, my dad played American football. My mom was a tennis All-American and field hockey All-American. And so like she's like one of the strongest people that I've ever met, like as far as just like pain threshold. So I'd say like I got some good genes from them. And they also let me go out and try things and fail and like kind of explore that. And I think I played a sport called lacrosse growing up and took that to a pretty high level and kind of used what I learned over the course of playing lacrosse to apply that to my running. And I kind of bring that mindset of like that team sport, but like also like as an individual, like kind of harnessing, that desire, like, I wanted to play in college. So like I was really committed. Like I'd practice 3 hours every day on my stick work and shooting and getting stronger and running and like, played all year round. And so like I've kind of used that kind of mindset and determination and just applied it to my running. And also I'm one of those people that doesn't get satisfied very quickly. So like I always think I can do more and continue to get better, even if maybe everyone else is like, yeah, dude, I think you're probably as good as you could get. So like, I'm not easily like turned from a task.
Continuing to evolve, Mike. You're preaching your own, you're living your own message, Mike. Just practically before we throw to a physical challenge for the week, you mentioned that you're really quite unusual circumstance of 5 bone stress injuries in your pelvis at one time. If you're a runner, you are likely to incur a bone injury and a tendon injury many times over in your running years if you stick with it long enough. What encouragement or tips might you share, or what learnings did you take about stewarding your bone health after really such a significant cluster of injuries?
Yeah.
Cluster as in one time, simultaneously.
Yeah, no, I think actually it was great getting injured. Like, I don't know if a lot of people would say that, but I think for me it was an important time. I was pushing my body really hard. We had some health issues with my youngest son, Grant. He was suffering epileptic seizures at the time, and so we weren't really sleeping. And so what I learned during that time, I had to take about 4 months off from running. I was able to find other ways to stay active. And I think that's the kind of challenge that we're in now. Like during that time, I started cycling quite a bit. I got very into hiking. And so like, as long as I wasn't like doing a lot of like direct impact, I was able to keep moving. And I think the biggest thing I learned was you have to be your own advocate for your health and for your wellness, and also continue to ask questions like, okay, well, I can't run, but what things can I do? And like a lot of people just say, especially if they're not a runner, they'll say, just don't run. And like, okay, that I get that, but like there are other things that I could do. So like I got really into pool running. So like I'm like I was aqua jogging like 4 hours a day, because I wanted to come back and be physically strong and fit. And what I realized is like there's a lot of other ways to stay fit that don't necessarily involve running. And so like I was able to use that going forward. And like before that, the stress fractures and the hernias, like I always had to get triple digits and that's for in the US in miles. So like, I'd always be at 100 miles. So that's like 200K or so, right? Like,
yeah,
a little less than 200K.
Yeah.
So like 180K or something every week. And like when I got hurt, I realized like every week I don't actually have to do that many miles. And like my performance didn't really drop that much. And so like that was something that I learned was like, you don't necessarily have to hit this arbitrary goal. What you have to do is get yourself in the best position to perform where you want to be. And so like, and you can do that in different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to just be miles. And so I think for me, that was a really turning point in my career where it's like, wow, like if I only run 100K, but I have really good sessions and, it's up the side of a mountain, that's just as good as running 180K or 200K. Like I definitely think there's times when you need volume, but I think the intensity and also the quality of the running matters. And then what else are you doing to help get you where you want to go?
So much there, Mike. Mate, this has been absolutely fantastic. Mike, every guest of the Physical Performance Show issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what is Mike Wardian's physical challenge going to be? I must say I'm a little bit nervous.
So I'd say the physical, and are we trying to keep it like Corona friendly, I guess?
Well, let's keep it.
Because I know there's some people that can't do like some activities right now.
True.
Right? So
true. I mean, at the time of recording, we are in the very early stages, I suspect, of this. So yeah, let's go Corona friendly Mike Wardian physical challenge of the week.
So it's home-based, I'd say. A home-based challenge for the week. If you can do 15 minutes of strength training every day for a week, that would be amazing. And I would recommend, because when people said that to me, I wouldn't know what to do if I hadn't done it before. If you can do an exercise called dead bugs, bridges, and bird dogs. Those are the 3 exercises that I do every single day. And you do 3 sets of 10, and it shouldn't even take the entire 15 minutes. And it takes a little coordination to do them, but engage your core and squeeze your butt. Those are the 2 biggest things that I can recommend in both of those. And it'll increase your coordination. It'll increase your strength. It works on your stability and core. And also it's just a good way to get in, about 10 or 15 minutes worth of activity. And I think if you can do those 3, you can do almost anything. And then also if you want, and this is one that I find really fun, is stand on one leg while you're brushing your teeth. So that's something that I always try to do, and stretch during your teeth brushing. So in the morning, and hopefully in the morning, and then at night. And if you can kind of get a couple stretches in during your teeth brushing, and then also in the shower, if you have the chance to just touch your toes 10 times while you're in the shower. Yeah, you'll be surprised at how much those little things. And again, that's like part of the invisible training. It's like you're brushing your teeth anyhow, you're taking a shower most anyhow. So like if you can incorporate some of that stuff in there, and then the dead bugs and bird dogs and bridges, don't do in the shower. But like those are outside the shower.
And look, this makes me feel a bit more normal when I do calf raises, filling the car up with fuel, Mike. I don't feel quite as alienated now. So
well, what's funny is I'll do squats while I do the car, and like you'll be surprised. It's like when you're on an airplane and you start doing like stretches, and then everybody else starts getting up and doing stretches. Like, so I think we're on to something.
You don't mean to tell me you've been doing squats, filling up the car with fuel, and other people have started doing squats while you're there?
No, but they'll like start like picking their legs up, or they'll like start shaking their arms out. Most people aren't excited to do squats, but like they're like, oh, I should do something, and it's pretty funny. You'll inspire somebody, believe me.
We so have to see people posting in videos and sharing it up with the show handle at Physical Performance Show, and Mike, your Instagram handle, which is Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here. Mike, throw it out. Your Instagram handle there, Mike Wardian, isn't
it? It's at Mike Wardian. Yeah. So it's MikeWard like dog, IAN like Nancy.
Yep, as it sounds. So we've got to tag in Mike Wardian and the Physical Performance Show at Physical Performance Show handle with some squats at the fuel bowser. Now, on top of that, Michael, we must get a little video of your 15-minute strength routine, the dead bugs, bridges, and bird dogs. And Mike, I would just want to say thank you for your contribution. Continuing to evolve as we went across a few different evenings and mornings, your time to get this done. And certainly 2020 is looking like a different year, but I just want to say thanks for the inspiration in doing what you do to so many runners worldwide, and thanks for your contribution.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure, man. Anytime. Next time, we'll be even more efficient.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, man. Thanks.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show. And I trust and I know you enjoyed Mike Wardian's many share-ins. I, for one, really took a lot out of my conversation with Mike. You'll find Mike easily over on Instagram or social at Mike Wardian, MikeWardian. Please reach out to Mike and let him know what your learnings were from Mike's share-ins. And of course, be sure to give Mike a follow. He is a whole lot of fun and inspiration. Keep the podsies coming, team. That is a screenshot of the episode you're enjoying whilst you're out and about, and tagging in the show at Physical Performance Show. My social handles at Brad_beer. Don't forget, you can have access to the featured performers via questions being asked over on our Facebook page. To search for the Physical Performance Show. And from that Facebook page, you have the opportunity to ask questions that emerge following the release of an episode. We'll do our best to get the featured guest of the week, providing you with an answer. A massive thanks to the very good folk who make this show possible each and every week. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things administration, Matthew Walding on all things show graphic design. Don't forget, if you are an endurance athlete frustrated by a running-related injury, then seek help via a 45-minute online consultation with myself, sports and exercise physiotherapist, 25 years experience around endurance sports, by jumping over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth. Thank you to everyone hitting subscribe for the show and leaving ratings and reviews over on iTunes. We'll get back in the swing of reading them out as we go in coming episodes. Now, talking about coming episodes, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, we're balancing out the gender of our guests, and we'll bring you a conversation that I had recently with 2018 World Series Triathlon champion, Olympic Games triathlon bronze medalist from 2016, Vicky Holland. I caught up with Vicky several weeks after Vicky spent time on the Gold Coast, Australia, having taken out the Mooloolaba World Triathlon Cup. Vicky shares so insightfully around her career's highs and learnings, so you are going to want to be tuning in. Following Vicky's episode, we will be bringing you some expert additions, planned coaches' corners, and some further great featured performers, including Australian swimming star Michael Klim. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.